volume leveling right now. What I like to do is basically make sure that the kick is the loudest part of the track. The kick should be hitting basically at 0 or about 0 on the master fader. And I can hear a little bit of the saturation, but I'm cool with it, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. But basically what you saw there was I bumped at different levels and different stages the kick volume up. I didn't just take one volume and slam it by turning it up. I could have boosted it here as well. There's no problem with that. I could have raised it up a few dB here, maybe a few dB here, or gone over to utility, excuse me, and boosted up a few dB there. I could have done that, no big deal. As a matter of fact, I'm doing it, I'm producing while talking here, so drag utility in, throw utility on the track. I'd probably put the bass at mono. I'd click that on. Just good practice. Cool. Now, being now that the kick is at basically about 0, I mean, let's see. I think just to be safe, we're going to do 0.5, so half a dB. Now that that is basically hitting at 0 on our master, what we're going to do is look at span. And you can see that's roughly hitting at about 33 dB. Or apparently 35, sorry. So, what we're going to do now, basically, is go down to our bass. The bass line should basically be about 6 to 12 decibels lower than our kick. So as we look at it on span, yeah, I mean, it's hitting at 38, so that's a little bit concerning, but it's real easy what we do. So let's say our kick was at 35, so 29, 28, give or take. Or pardon me, I guess we should go the other way. So 35, you could say 45, 6 to 12, you could call it even and say 10 dB. I would probably raise it up a little bit. Let's hear it in the mix, and then probably what I'll do is boost this a couple dB, because remember I did say 6 to 12. It doesn't need to be 10, I just suck at math, so I saw 35 and thought, well, 45 then for the bass, roughly, but you know, 6 to 12. Let's listen in context. To me, which it's really going to sound whacked out because all this stuff is just going to completely drown it out. I'm going to shut all of this stuff off. To me, the bass is drowned out and we're kind of losing it. So let's boost it a little and let's get a little bit closer, maybe to like 6 dB. pretty happy with that, truth be told. I'm cool with that. I just want to look at the bass one more time on the EQ. I was just making sure, you know, maybe I could cheat a little bit more of that low end and take this up a little bit to more like here. But this isn't an overproduced track. There's not a ton of layers to it, and it just isn't necessary. So I think we'll leave it at that. That's a great starting point right there. The kick is the loudest part of the track. The bass is about 6 to 12 decibels below the kick. You know, and you'll have to use your ears. Is it better at 6? Is it better at 12? Somewhere in the middle, 8, 10, something like that. You'll use your ears. But from there, basically, just start bringing elements in and, you know, kind of rocking out to taste. Not to sound too surfer, we're not going to sweat it about it, but that's pretty much what it is. Span is your friend. Like, for example, let's look at the kick. So your clap is sitting well below the kick. You can experiment with turning that up if you like. Might be useful. You're going to just have to listen in context. Turning it up right now in solo is completely useless. I would unsolo it and listen. It also probably isn't a bad idea to drag a reference track in. The only problem with me dragging a reference track in to show you is that copyright issues. I don't want this course to get pulled down because I showed you I had a reference on here. So what I would do if I were you is I'd have a folder called reference tracks, and in that folder drag and drop a reference track into your session. And if all of your, and what you'll do is all of your tracks will be on, or otherwise kind of this goldish yellow color, and your reference track, like let's just do this for example, duplicate, let's pretend this is our reference track. Your reference track will be off, everything else on, so that way when you hit solo, your reference track is the only thing that's playing. When you hit unsolo, your track is the only thing that's playing. Your track and the reference track never play at the same time because it'll obviously sound like a jumbled mess. You'll know it's wrong immediately because it'll sound insane. But the cool thing about that is when you solo your reference track and you click on master, as long as there's no limiter on your master or no major anything on the master, EQ, compression, limiting, anything like that, when you open up your span and you click spacebar or click play and your reference is playing because it's soloed, you can see the waveform of that reference and how to kind of get your track to sound like that. And then you can unsolo the reference track, and now your track will be playing, and you can see how different your two tracks are and if you're in the ballpark or not. That right there is also, that tip is worth the time spent on this course alone. Super helpful way to get your mix right without guessing. Maybe in something more like rock music or country, you have more leeway, but in dance music, I have come to find it's very either right or wrong, simply because you are playing it at very loud volumes in a nightclub, and fidelity of the bass has to be very high, whereas with rock music and country and other forms of music, it's not quite so defined for one area. So I think it's safe to say if there's anywhere you want your dance track to sound good, it's on a large nightclub or festival sound system, you know. So I mean, everybody wants their tracks, their music to sound good everywhere, but you know, country and rock and other genres sort of have a little bit more leeway, jazz, classical, whereas like club music is club music, you know, dance music is dance music. So that's a really good way to save yourself years of heartache, which I unfortunately didn't have anybody like me to tell me. So I spent years mixing terribly because I had no clue what I was doing. I was, you know, chasing my own tail. It was awful. But okay, so let's get rid of that reference because that was just for example. It's actually nothing. And we'll just go down the line here. Hey! something I'm hearing about this clap that I don't like, and it's the decay of it. So I think what I'm going to do is mess with that. Give me 1 second. Kind of watch what I'm doing here, and you'll see. Ah. We're peaking out on the master, which is fine. We're going to fix that in a minute. It's just we're trying to get our ish right. Trying to get our mind right. I'm seeing a little bit of peaking, so I might kick down on the kick. So I shut off those extra hi-hats because you can hear that this main hi-hat really isn't as loud as these helper hi-hats here. This hi-hat too is just taking over everything, so we're going to kick down on that because that's really just for decoration in the background. To me, right there for now, that's acceptable. You'll find that as you kind of get more used to mixing your track and more in a groove, that maybe you'll adjust that. But really, the focus of this track is not these hi-hat twos, this kind of decorated pattern here. So we can crank down on that for now. And don't worry, we're going to do something about the master here being in the red. We'll do something about that. Just relax. Relax, relax, relax. All right. Super. Steel drums are tricky because do you see how high the peaks are? Cool. What I might do with those steel drums is actually, I might do a little, well, I don't want to get too crazy for the 30-day power production. I was going to add some New York compression to them just to beef them up a little bit, which basically would just entail me adding a return track with a compressor on it and feeding that signal into the compressor. We can do it, I guess, just so you can see it, but I call it New York compression because, you know, I'm sort of old school, but not really. Throw that on there. Slam that. See, it creates a very thick sound, so what you can do is mix that in with your other steel drums and get a nice thick kind of lead sound, since that's sort of the focus of this track. I might too add a little delay to this. What I might actually do is switch out the delay on here. For time's sake, let's go and look for, what was the delay? Thought there was one down here that I used to like to use, like a ping pong delay. Maybe it's up in delay, vintage delay, echo. Maybe we'll use an echo. That could be nice. Multiband dynamics, resonator, saturator. Yeah, I guess that's okay. Let's go something. That might be a little bit heavy on the delay, but do you see how that instantly filled out the sonic spectrum wonderfully? Not too mad at that. We could do a little bit more work on the bass line. I think what we might do is bring out the highs in that. See, I'm getting into a flow state here, guys, because this is what mixing is. I'm making decisions on the fly about what I hear. The bass sounded a little bit boring to me, so I added some high end, and I just wanted to experiment to see what the sidechain compressor was capable of with the settings that I have set up to just create more of a groove between everything. Yeah, cool. You know, we're not going to get super crazy on it because it's just not cool. And what I wanted to do is maybe experiment with a little bit of width on the steel drum. We already have some delay going, I get that, but I just wanted to kind of experiment with what width would also do. And what we'll do also is we will, on the master, throw a utility and do mono, just to make sure we're not losing anything when we're widening so much. Yeah, we're good. So great, okay. Steel drums, vocals. And those steel drums might be still a tad loud, we'll see. Hey! So all I'm doing here with these vocals is just creating space with them, giving them some reverb so that there's some texture to the track, and also adding a bit of delay to it. just for texture, just to let the higher end lead parts shine. Let's go ahead and check on span where everything is sitting.
Woo! Hey! Woo! Hey!
Okay.
Woo! Hey!
Okay. Cool. You can see not a whole lot, you know, I mean it's just little tweaks here and there that help. This guy for sure, I think we're going to add some verb, some delay, and definitely make it wide, I think. No. We could make the track very thin. Or not very thin, but we could just, oh, let's see. Breakdown. What happened to our... I shut it off, that's what happened to it. What we might do too with these vocals, because they kind of take over the breakdown and they're in the rest of the song, we might get those out of there. Let's see what it sounds like without them. You can experiment with this. I'm not gonna lose my mind on it right now, but I mean, you could do kind of the classic thing where you take a filter, throw that on there, maybe let it breathe as we come up. So, where's my mouse? So basically, that didn't work out well. Device on, frequency. I could do something like this. I think I'd expand on this build up to build more anticipation, maybe make it twice as long. But I think you can hear that too, that, you know, the breakdown's a little bit short. We could widen it for sure. Just move everything over and just duplicate that, you know, move your drop over and then duplicate your breakdown and build up over. It'd be okay. But the idea is there. I think that filter is good. We're going to stick with that. And I just want to see. Cool. Okay. I think we're good so far. We're doing okay. Crash cymbal. This is probably going to be a little loud, but let's see. That's not bad. Just make sure. I thought that sounded a little odd. Why does that sound so cut off? Did I tweak that accidentally? Okay, that sounds better. That's rather low, so what I might do is bump that up as well. Okay. What I'm doing there is I'm hearing that the reverse crash, this one that I'm working on, is rev crash for reverse crash is a little bit beefier than the regular crash, so I'm trying to thin it out because really I want the power to be with the actual crash, not the reverse of it. I think that sounds better right there. Alright, cool, so that's good. Let's see what the rise up does. Yeah, we could maybe do a little something like that, and then we could even probably put a little width. Yeah, maybe we won't. We'll just kind of keep it simple. You could make that wide if you wanted to, but I just want to see too on the spectrum or span. Yeah, that's hitting a little harsh and a little loud. Let me might go like that. We might tame these a little bit. Okay. Could you tweak it here or there? Sure. Sure could. This is driving the purists nuts, I bet. Let's go ahead and just check that, because that sounds a bit loud too, but I'd like to see. Maybe it's just there's some frequencies clashing a bit. What we might do with those, because there's also a crash hitting roughly at the same time as those, we're going to select them, we're going to shut the grid off, and we're going to just slide them just over a little. It's too much, which is fine. I mean, you just zoom in a bit more. You might even be able to even edge it the other way. We'll have to see. I don't think we need to have it that loud, even though it's really not crushing in the mix. What is the importance of it? I think that sounds way better, just personally. I think that's way better. I think we could even lower this guy a bit. Just gives more impact to the kick. Instead of turning the kick up, turn down what is competing with the kick. Pardon me. Okay. This is our laugh. I forgot about our laugh, so let's listen. here with these steel drums is that when they come back in, we're having a bit of an issue here. So what we're going to do is have them not clash so much with themselves. We might even bring a little bit more tension since the break is not long in the build-up. Might create more tension by, instead of having a peak here, we'll have it start peaking there and dipping already. Okay. Alright, cool. That, what I might do too is with these hi-hats, I might go ahead and add a, let's see. And shrink those up too. And shrink up the kick as well. We can work on that. I mean, that's arrangement. I guess we could leave it as is, as it was. And that'd be okay. Give me 1 second, I'll be out. Yeah. That's fine. Let's just hear how loud this laugh is. Okay. All right. Aside from personal tweaks, at this point, a basic mix is done. Could we double up on the steel drums? Or double up on the bass and layer some stuff? We could. In fact, in the next video, we'll do that quickly just so you can see what options there are. Probably shoulda, coulda, maybe done that in the production and arrangement stage, but this is just to give you an idea. But yeah, mixing is pretty much done unless you'd like to obsess over some things and really like the classic meme of like the mix engineer who turned into a skeleton on the mixing board because, you know, a mix is never done. It's a basic house track. It's got a tropical feel because of the steel drums. It's got a Mikey feel because of that. You know, it's not meant to be a raunchy, hard, you know, dubstep or hard dance track. The sounds are completely different and all of that. But I mean, even still, you can do this with any genre. It's just a matter of having the samples. This is what we created. We'll do one for every genre, probably. At this point, though, I do want to address the master issue. Let's get to the drop real quick. Okay, we are hitting a little bit hard on that. So what we can do, you can either select all of your tracks and in the selection mode bring one of the volumes down, and thus all of the volumes will follow. Or you can also just take your gain on the master, utility on the master, pardon me. And let's just make sure that when the drop comes in here that it doesn't slam into the red. Awesome. Cool.